Welcome back, everybody, to the Birdies and Bourbon Show. We're really excited to be drinking with Atlanta restaurateur Chris Hall today from Local 3. I'm sure we may get into some of your other adventures along the way, Chris. But cheers, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So just to be transparent before we get started, so Chris was kind enough to share a couple of, do you call them store picks, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, they're barrel picks. We just call them barrel picks.
Okay. All right. So Chris was kind enough to share a couple of barrel picks with us just for visuals and representation purposes. I do have an ASW and an Elijah Craig bottle. He will be showing the actual bottles. I don't have the actuals, but just so you know, maybe we'll get some questions or some likes or comments. Who knows what we'll get out of there? Hey, just like a restaurant owner, you're already drinking out of the to-go cup.
Is there another cup that exists? I mean, come on, man. Like, it's just natural. It's like that and hot food. I don't know what hot food is. We don't eat hot food. That's not what we do, right?
Yeah.
It's not part of who we are. So
yeah, awesome. So Chris, you picked the barrels out. I'm not sure if anybody assisted you in that, but which would you recommend we start with? The Elijah Craig?
Yeah, I think we start with Elijah and then go to the ASW.
Okay. Well, do you want to share a little about what we're sipping on before we get started?
Sure. This is a barrel pick that we did with Elijah. We've done, I don't know. I think this is like our 6th or 7th barrel with them. And I've gotten to know Bernie Lubbers pretty well. So got a little chance to figure out where some good honey holes are.
Yeah.
Getting stuff out of Deatsville and places like that where we really, you're getting a bourbon that we really like. So when we do a barrel pick, we're generally sampling between 6 and 9 barrels. And basically it's usually my partners and I, so I have 2 business partners, and then sometimes we'll bring in folks from our organization and friends, like the second barrel that we've done. And basically we'll try them all and kind of write down little notes about them. And we can pretty much immediately, if we do 9 barrels, we can kind of knock out about 4. Like there's usually 4 that we can agree on. They're just like, hey man, that's not us. And then we go back, we try them again, and that's when the hand-to-hand combat starts. Right? Then it's full-on blood sport, Texas cage match. Like, we're in it to win it. And usually we get it down to 2. And sometimes we buy 2 because we just can't, get there. Oftentimes, what are we looking for? Are we looking for a sipping bourbon, or are we looking for a cocktail bourbon?
Sure.
Because it could be different, right? It's certainly the flavor profile could be different. So we get it down to 2 or 3, and then it's kind of like, what are you thinking? This whiskey that we have right here. So this came from the new facility. This came from Cox, and it's on the 5th out of 7 floors. So we just really liked it. It's a 9. I think it was 9 years 3 months. Mm-hmm. And I really I have this thing. Everyone has kind of their flavor profile that they like and all.
Sure.
I've got this mad juicy fruit thing, right? So banana is the technical name. Yeah. When I nose a bourbon and it smells like juicy fruit, it immediately gets me, right? And so I got a little of that juicy fruit, a little creme caramel, all those good things. And when we tasted it, out of the ones we tasted, it was the most balanced and fit. And so this one ended up being the winner of this trip. So
what you're saying is when you're sitting around with when it's tasting time and the business partners are there and they nose and they get that banana juicy fruit, it's like, shit, we can just go ahead and just
there's immediate flavors that like all of us know. Like if there's something that's peppery, like Mussman's gonna grab it, right? He's gonna be like, yeah, I want, like I can almost tell you what they're gonna pick and what I'm gonna pick. The cool ones are. This has happened we've probably done, I don't know, 30 barrels between whiskey and tequila in the history of what we've done. And it's really cool. There have been, I think, 3 times when all of us immediately have been like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like no debate, like nothing. We were like,
that's got to be a good feeling though, right? I mean, one, it's like, well, so it's in, well, let us taste the other one so we know why we're not picking those. But I mean, in the grand scheme, it's like now you can have fun with it and you've taken all the decision criteria out.
Usually that's problematic too, because you're spending another 10 grand buying a second barrel. Because you're like, okay, well, we know we got that one and we got to have more fun. So like, we're going to fire for effect over here and do that, which I think is really fun. You know, and there's different experiences you can have. There's the barrel pick, but then we like to go blend stuff too, right? Like we like to go blend some stuff, and that's always a good experience too. But I think what's so neat about barrels is like, this is it. When it's gone, it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
More, and no barrel will be like it. It's like a fingerprint of the whiskey world, and so I think that's cool to be able to experience that. And one of the things that we look for is it distinctive, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with it tasting like every other Elijah or every other Woodford or every other Weller, but like you can find that a lot of places.
Right.
We'll generally gravitate toward a barrel that's something funky and cool, and different, because I want people to be like, "Oh yeah, this is."
No, I'm going back to Local 3 because I want to have that whatever you paired it with or I paired it with, and I want that bourbon again because it really complemented and finished the meal.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you guys definitely get it, and it's always fun to do. And now knowing enough about each distillery and who's making whiskey and stylistically, you know, I had a really cool conversation with Brent Elliott a couple months ago, just talking about like, he's like, listen, the sweet spot is between 9 and 12 years. Like, you can take it as long as you want it, but he's right. I mean, a lot of times you get more tannin involved and you lose some things. Where is that sweet spot? How old is it? It's fun to figure that out. And each barrel is going to be different, and where it's stored in the rickhouse is going to affect it. What rickhouse it's in, all the microclimates. It's a cool thing, but I really love the fact that they're all different.
Yeah. This is a great pick, and I see what you mean by the uniqueness. Again, I mean, you can find Elijah Craig small batch on any shelf you walk into in any liquor store, but I'm definitely getting that banana juicy fruit note. It's got a really clean finish on the end of this thing. I mean, it's like, this is one of those where the show, if I had a bottle of this, the show could get really bad really quick.
This is dipping whiskey, and it goes down really smooth. I mean, that's what we got this for. Is you know, this time of year you light a fire and you decide, hey, this is going to be good, and we're going to sit here and we're going to sip this. It's very clean. I think it's not overly spicy, but it's well rounded. It's not sort of too vanilla. It's not boring. It's just a really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting some graham cracker on the palate on this thing. Is it's kind of coating my mouth a little bit. It's, I mean, I like heavy, like honey, graham crackery, and
it
then
has a viscosity to it that we really. That's something. That's a great point. I mean, a lot of people don't talk about that. Mouthfeel is really important to me. Like, you know, some stuff can be really oily, and that can be great. And like, look, I'm not calling anybody out, but there's a whiskey out there with an age statement on it, and I'm like, look, that's really thin. It might be 10 years old, but it doesn't. And when you drink, I don't know if you guys have found this. Like, for me, I tend to drink higher proof because then I can cut it to where I want it, as opposed to sort of, you know. When you
I haven't learned that lesson yet about cutting it.
Yeah, well, maybe the issue is more of the fact that you know, our palates are a little deader to 80 proof bourbon as opposed to 100 proof bourbon. And I think the one thing about Elijah that's interesting that we need to be honest about when we're talking about whiskey is, you buy a $100 bottle of bourbon, it damn well better taste good, right? It's those experiences in life. Like, when do you feel you get value? Well, you feel you get value when something over delivers.
That's right.
So, like, listen, I'm a chef, right? Everybody's like, oh, like, I think Waffle House is value. It over delivers. It doesn't cost me a lot, but it's fresh eggs.
It's damn good.
They say hello every time. They know my name. My order is practically cooked before I sit my butt in the seat. Like, that's awesome, right? So that can exist in the bourbon world as well, in the sense of like, yeah, it's great to get, you know, Al Young, and it's great. I'll be honest with you. It's that time of year. Everybody's like, oh, I didn't get my call. I'm lucky I'm in this business, because I'd blow my brains out if I had to go searching for that stuff like that.
Yeah,
I get it's part of the chase, but I'd rather chase a golf ball than chase that.
Well, we're going to get there. Hold on. So we went straight into bourbon, which it doesn't appear any of us are upset about. And I mean, it's Birdies and So when I reached out to, I think I reached out to you on Instagram. I reached out to Local 3, and the response I got back was, he said, "Hell yes, my two favorite things, golf and bourbon." And I'm like, well,
you had me at hello. I don't need to go much farther.
And
I probably do most often as well. So
yeah, and just before we got fired up, you mentioned it, and we'd be remiss if we didn't say thanks to the voice of the Atlanta Falcons for when he was on the show, and we were just talking about some local, no pun intended, or maybe it was, but talking about some Atlanta. And Dan always likes to kind of finish the show with, hey, what are some of the diamonds in the rough, the places that you don't really, that you wouldn't just happen upon, and you got to kind of search them out. And the first place I believe he brought up was Local 3 and yourself. And he's like, you got to get this guy on the show. And I'm like, well, I hope he doesn't know us. So, because maybe he'll say yes.
Wes is a great guy, and he consistently takes my money on the golf course. As good as Wes is, his wife Victoria is much better. And we need to constantly remind him of that. But Wes is a good friend and a good player, and a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
So there's nobody that has, I mean, he's got as many good golf stories involving athletes as anybody you'll ever meet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get into a few of those with you, but for the folks that don't know Chris Hall, so the restaurateur or partner, however you'd like to frame that up, in Local 3, and you've had some businesses of your own. I don't know if you still have any standalones, but you're partnered, if I can say, with the folks that have Muss and Turner.
Yeah, everybody's in one pot now. We're all together. We're
okay. Yeah. So
one big happy family.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, I'm saying that's the Local 3, right? Is the three of you guys?
We've got Muss and Turner's, which has a speakeasy. Eleanor's attached to it. We've got MTH Pizza, which is great. And then we have the concept that shall not be named. We're not going to talk about it. It's like Augusta. I literally built it under the model of Augusta, and I'm Clifford Roberts, and that's
you're sticking to it. Well, give us a little bit of history about Chris Hall.
For the most part, grew up in Atlanta. Moved here when I was a kid, around 12. Discovered booze at an early age. Had the opportunity to go to boarding school in Tennessee, which was great. And went up north for college and worked up there and came back home. Started working in restaurants when I was 14.
Culinary degree?
Nope. I taught myself how to cook. Just worked in the best restaurants. Best promotion, best job switch I ever made to this day was when I was 14. I wanted to buy a car, and my parents were like, "That's neat. Why don't you better do something to supplement you mowing yards." And I was like, "Well, my friends' parents, you got some nice friends. You're going to help with insurance?" They're like, "Yeah, nope, you're going to figure that out too," which was great. It was an amazing lesson, and it's one of the reasons I'm an entrepreneur now. But I really wanted a car, so I fabricated my age, and when I was 14, started working at the Pizza Hut. And then the next summer, I figured out I could ride my bike about a half mile further, and there was Fellini's. And Fellini's had better beer, better pizza, and hotter women. At 15, these are important criteria. Well, I mean, they still are important criteria, right? Nothing's changed. And
no,
so
not really.
I did that, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that sitting a job that was static and kind of the same thing every day wouldn't suit me, and sitting behind a desk wouldn't probably do well for me. And I needed something creative, and this has turned into all those things. And the side benefit to tie it all together of what I do is I've gotten to meet a lot of amazing people and cook for a lot of amazing people. And when they find out you're into golf, you get a lot of cool invitations to play a lot of cool places.
I'm sure.
That is, when people ask me, like, what's the best part about your job? And if I'm really honest with them, I'm like, the golf courses I get to play and the people I get to play with. I mean, my team's great. I love everybody here, but that is the perk. That is the unsung perk of what I do is just getting to play really cool golf courses with really cool people.
Well, you opened the door, bud. So give me you can give me the best one, top 3. Deal it up. It's your show.
I mean, the best one's right down the road, right?
Oh yeah, East Lake,
right down the road. the biggest casualty of COVID in my life this year is this is a big birthday for me, and we had 4 days in the locker room at Cypress planned as a birthday gift from a friend of mine, and COVID killed that.
Bummer.
So hopefully we'll get to do that. I'm fortunate. I have a lot of friends that are in the business, and just everywhere from, I'm wearing a Shinnecock hat, not on purpose. I just picked the golf hat because I wear a hat every day because I don't have any hair.
Dan doesn't either. It's okay. Y'all have something in common.
It's all part of the, I'm just fortunate, honors. I was for my birthday a couple weeks ago. We were down at Congaree.
Nice.
Sage. I mean,
you're just showing off at this point. We get it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it really is the fun part of what I do.
Yeah.
Is people, you cook for them, you get to know them, and they're like, "Hey, we know you like golf. You want to come enjoy this?" And you get to go do fun stuff. And it's
but I mean, it does speak to I mean, we don't have to go back through the list you just named off, but the five that I could just rattle off that you went through. I mean, it's the cream of the crop, right? I mean, it is the golf courses that are bucket list golf courses, which kind of ties right back into, I mean, what you do for a living. If you're talking and cooking for folks that want to come to your place, they're eating at really good places. So, and I love your place, and I hope you talk about the local three a little bit, because that damn buffet you do, the brunch you do, where you get to walk through the kitchen.
COVID put us off a little bit, but we'll be back on it as soon as we can. And I'm really proud of Local 3. It's a restaurant that's very reflective of my personality and who I am. I was into bourbon before bourbon was cool. I know it seems like that was long ago, but when we opened in 2010, there were no bourbon bars in Atlanta. There were no specifically dedicated. And so my philosophy was, look, I'd rather be good at I'd rather be great at one thing than good at a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm. It's not, I mean, no offense to the guys in the vodka world, it's a flavorless, colorless spirit. How many do you need behind your bar? Like, shit. I mean, sorry. Can I?
Yeah, you can.
It's your show. Speak freely.
I'll keep it, rated R, not anywhere above that. But right, I mean, how many vodkas do you need? I see these bars with 18 vodkas. I'm like, what do you like? If you want a vodka that tastes like blackberries, I got a plan for you. Get some blackberries and muddle them in your damn vodka. You don't need somebody to do it for you and pay extra, right? So my philosophy was just, hey, I love whiskey. It's a traditional American thing. I wanted an American restaurant. Not to say that, but the cool thing about calling yourself an American restaurant is we are a melting pot, and I can cook whatever kind of food I want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at the end. That's why I did this. I wanted to serve the booze I wanted to serve. I wanted to cook the food I wanted to serve. And I've always loved bourbon. And I was like, look, instead of trying to be a little bit of something to everybody, let's focus on bourbon. I mean, we don't even do a lot of scotch. I mean, I probably have 30 scotches here, but I've got 557 bourbons.
Wow.
That doesn't count. Not that there's anything wrong with drinking out of a plastic bottle, because Lord knows I've had plenty of E-dub in my life and other things that are far lower than that. But we've tried to really curate a collection that is approachable to everyone, because I want someone that's never had bourbon before, is just starting that journey, to be able to come in and go, man, that's a great place. I can afford stuff and it's really cool. And I want somebody that's a complete geek to come in and go, oh shit, they have that unicorn that I've always wanted to try, and it's not breaking the bank.
Well, that's exactly where we wound up at with Wes on the show, and kind of asking about, some diamonds in the rough. And not that you're a diamond in the rough, but you are tucked away in a unique spot.
Yeah, no one would know we're here if we're not. I think it's kind of, this is my own bias, and it's very insecure for someone, but I'll put it out there to everybody. Like, I don't think we get enough credit for being the whiskey bar we are. I see other people that have 100 bourbons, and people are like, oh my God, it's the best whiskey bar I've ever been. I'm like, that's not even a whiskey bar. That's like some sort of hobby.
My point exactly, but that's where we went with Wes, and we were like, hey, where would you go to drink if you were coming to Atlanta to drink bourbon? And he didn't. I'm reflecting back, and it's cloudy because we were drinking a little bit, and I'm drinking now. But it was, where would you go to drink? What's the best bourbon bar in Atlanta? And your name came up first, and I said, shit, I don't know why I didn't even think of that myself. because I mean, when you walk in and you look at the wall, it is, I mean, I mean, things like we're drinking now with this Elijah Craig barrel pick. I mean, it's stuff that's unique that you've got some staples in there that if you're, hey, I'm a one-track pony and this is what I want to do, you can get them there. But if you're an explorer and you want to go and you say, hey, I want to go sit down at a bar and I want to be able to try something that, I may not be able to find anywhere else. It's like, well, here you go. And it is just that. And I don't know why you don't get credit for that either.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, Bourbon Review has named us one of the best, bourbon bars for the last 8 years running.
Cool.
Which is great. But I do think it's a little. I think we've got a great team behind the bar, and having someone whose sole focus is on bourbon, and having a bourbon somm who's not a stuck-up guy, but is just super cool. Like, hey, what do you want to drink? Let's figure out what you like to taste, and we'll take you through it.
Yeah.
And give me a budget. Like, what do you want to spend? I think that's an important part of it. I think we do some cool stuff. Like, we just got finished with our 9th year of Brown Friday, which instead of Black Friday, we just discount all our whiskeys by 50%.
That's
so
cool.
You can sit at the bar and do your Christmas shopping. Like, even before COVID, who wants to go to the mall, right? Like, so, I mean, there's the other thing we do is we do a lot of neat tastings and events. We just have the ability to do some really cool stuff with people like Chris Morris and Jackie Zykan and Brent Elliott and Bernie Lovers and these are big names in the whiskey world, right? Like, doing the debut of Castle and Key down here in a couple weeks with Will Arvin and his team up there, and just being able to do things like that gives people access. I mean, the last event, Dave Pickerel was a dear friend of mine. The last event Dave ever did before he passed away was here.
Oh, wow.
Tuesday night, and was in LA on Thursday.
The only issue I have with those events that you do is I'm always too damn late and I never can get into them.
Now you've got my email. Yeah, I'll just send you when they're coming up and you'll be good to go.
Perfect.
So we really pride ourselves on having a program that is really comprehensive for people and fun. I'm a lot more interested in serving whiskey to people that love it and want to try something than people that have a lot of money and can pay for it.
Right.
Like, I that's why I'll tell this to all the people that are really geeked out on bourbon and love bourbon. When you come in here, you're going to see a list and it's going to have about 400 and something bourbons on it. That ain't the whole shebang. Because if I put things on there, it's just, they're going to go and it's going to be someone showing off and saying, hey, I bought 10 shots of X for my guys. And that's great. And please don't think I don't like money, and particularly now in COVID, we need it.
Right.
But like, I want that stuff to go to people that are like, man, I've always wanted to try Al Young.
And I can't find it. It's never anywhere that I go to.
I've only heard of it. And when I heard of it, it was so expensive that I couldn't afford it. I'd much rather do somebody like that because they're going to be loyal to us in the long term. And we're going to give them, I mean, at the end of the day, you get in this business because you like pleasing people. You like hospitality. When I see the look on somebody's face and the gratitude of, and I've been searching, I've wanted to have Tornado Survivor. I've wanted to have, Electric Owl, or I've wanted to have, name all, Elma 100, whatever it is. Like, that's awesome. And you've gotten a customer for life, frankly, at that point, right?
Sure. It's good.
Because it's someone that comes in. So the dirty down low secret is always ask, like, if there's something you want to try, ask if we have it. Or if there's something you're like, hey, what do you have that is not on the list, maybe new, is cool, that I might not have seen? One of us will come out and talk to you about it, and we'll rip and run on some cool juice.
God, I've got I'm taking notes mentally. I hope I don't drink too much and forget them.
Hey.
Well, the good news is this is recorded. I can just go back and listen to it.
Absolutely, and we're here, and I think that's one of the fun things for our bar team is when they do get people who really trust them and want, say, okay, what do you like? And they say, okay, well, I tend toward more spicy or, high rye or I'm a weeder guy. And then we can start to really like allow them the flexibility to bring some cool stuff out that they know and say, hey, you might have traditionally had this, but let's try this over here.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think it would, so you're a chef, and I want to get there in just a second, but I mean, I think that's really key. And, you know, I mean, you've mentioned or referenced, you know, a few labels, if you will, or brands, and it's, you know, it's people that are, you know, everybody's hunting a few unicorns. I've definitely found a few myself, and that was for personal gratification that, hey, I want them. I want to have them on the bar, and it's not for show. It's not for tell. It's just because I want to experience it. And you can see, I like to collect, and not collect, but I like to have something.
But you drink them and you share them with friends.
Yep.
I mean, that's what I've always said. Any whiskey or wine in my home collection. I mean, there's 2 bottles of whiskey I have that have sentimental value to me. One I picked with a friend who's passed away now, right? And I drink that on the anniversary of his passing every year. Yep. And I've got about that much Black Maple Hill, the real Black Maple Hill. Not the one. I love it so much because that was the whiskey that made me go, oh shit.
Really?
Like, that was the whiskey. Yeah, that was that was when the clouds parted, the angels sang, the light shone down, and I was like, that ain't no plastic bottle whiskey anymore that you've been drinking, boy. That's not Southern Comfort.
So do you remember where you had it at?
Yeah, I had it. This was probably around. This was late 90s, and I had it at a friend's house, and I was working at the time, and they had some, and I went right in, and I was like, I want a bottle, and they're like, well, it's pretty expensive. And it was like $65, right, back then.
Oh shit! Now, I mean,
right. I mean, and I was like, yeah, I want it, and I just remember like having the whiskey and being like, you know, he was kind of tasting us through stuff, and I was really in that learning phase. I've been a whiskey drinker in college because I like to fire for effect. But as I worked in fine dining, I got into wine, and then I was starting back into whiskey. And I remember tasting, just being like, I was almost embarrassed to ask him, like, can I get some more? Because that was so good, right? Because he was tasting us through a bunch of different stuff. And so I've got literally maybe like 3 ounces left, 3.5 ounces. At some point, I'll kill it. But everything else is there to share with friends. I mean, I think that's the joy of whiskey, is that it's a social thing. And that's
the joy of whiskey, the joy of food. And I mean, if you ever get a chance to experience Local 3 in a more regular environment than what we're going through today, I mean, that's exactly what's your establishment. I mean, it's the epitome of come in, sit around. It's a gregarious atmosphere, and it is open and welcoming. And it's like, how many restaurants do you get to go to and eat, and you get to walk through their kitchen where everything's happening, and you know, we're serving you right here. It's like, hey, what do you want? And here you go. You know, and that's classy.
Of all the COVID stuff that's changed in the restaurant, that's I mean, I miss the buzz, the electricity, but I miss brunch. And being, you know, people walking through the kitchen just being like, what are you doing? I can't tell you the number of people who've been like, you know, teach me how to make eggs like that. And we're like, come back, we'll teach you how to make eggs like that. That's
cool.
We are intentionally not out to make any statement other than our statement is putting a smile on our guest face. There's no agenda. There's no, you want a well-done steak? I'll cook a well-done steak. If that makes you happy, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not trying to prove anything to myself.
If you order a well-done steak, you better damn well order ketchup with it.
Fair enough. But it's really, at the end of the day, our mission is to make people happy. And if people leave with a smile on their face and they feel they got, you know, good value for their money, and they're like, man, I remember that place because I had this great meal with some friends that I hadn't seen in a while, or we got engaged there, or we celebrated a graduation there. I mean, those are the moments that when people look back, we just had our 10th anniversary, and I got all these notes from people saying this was an important time in my life. And I think it's an interesting part of what we do that doesn't get talked about a lot, in the fact that we're sharing I mean, our culture is based around food, right? Everybody eats and drinks, and we do it kind of communally with our families and stuff. And we share in the good times of marriages and graduations and celebrations, and we share in the hard times of funerals and loss and things like that. But those are intimate moments, and you get to share those with people, and that's incredibly meaningful. You know, another bottle that people up at our place in the mountains that I just had some the other day was, we did a funeral for a regular here who happened to be a member at Marion, and he took me to play Marion for the first time. And we went twice, and it was an incredibly special experience. And we did the funeral when Bob passed away. And afterwards, his wife sent me a lovely 2 Baccarat whiskey glasses and a bottle of Decades.
Oh, nice.
A Wild Turkey. And Wild Turkey is criminally underrated.
Yeah.
People just look at it as this like monolithic brand that is exactly like they just look and they're like Wild Turkey and they immediately turn off, right?
No, well, because you think, oh, well, that's bottom shelf, cheap ass shit, and exactly. I'm not going to drink that.
No,
and it's
those
like,
guys are making some of the best whiskey in the world. They like sometimes you got to do this to do this, and they sell a lot of this so they can then do this stuff. And those experiences are what we're trying to do, and it's a cool thing because we get to see the important moments in a lot of people's life, and we take that very seriously. We don't take ourselves seriously. I mean, God forbid we do that. We want to have fun, but we take what we do damn seriously because we're part of some really important stuff in people's lives.
Well, so let me kind of spin us off on that one for a sec, if you don't mind. So I would say just this is our first time meeting virtually. Unfortunately, we'll meet in person, I'm sure.
Let's play some golf.
Hopefully, we get around to golfing.
Yeah,
exactly. So I would say you're a bourbon connoisseur and you're a professional chef. Is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement.
So can you give it to the folks that are listening? Selfishly, I want it for me, and Dan wants it for himself also. How do you start to pair bourbons with food, or do you pair foods with bourbons?
I think they're a little bit symbiotic. I do not. I think with whiskey, I don't subscribe to the idea of fighting the pairing. So I think you have options. So when you first start, you're looking at it and you say, okay, I have a dish that's spicy. Well, there's not any whiskey that's going to cool down spice, right? That's not going to work. Mm-hmm. Whiskey doesn't work. Like in the wine world, you can say, okay, spicy food, I'm going to do a Riesling with it. Mm-hmm. But in general, the way our taste buds work, you're better to go ahead and just accentuate whatever it is, right? Now, here's something that I think is really important that a lot of people don't talk about. Pairing wine and food, and hopefully a lot of things you do in your life should be about balance. So I'm not a craft beer guy. I'm sorry to all my friends in craft beer. They know this. I've been roundly, posited as the idiot David Chang. I drink the champagne of beers, Miller High Life. I drink it ice cold. I want it so cold that it almost hurts my head. It was from when I was a kid, and I would sneak a beer after mowing the lawn, and I would literally put it in the freezer. Because if I went in the freezer, mom and dad just thought I was getting a popsicle or something because I mowed the big lawn. But it was an ice cold beer that was almost slushy, right? So when you get to things that are out of balance, whether it be an Over Oak Chardonnay or a triple IPA, I drink a triple IPA. I can't taste anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All I taste is bitter. So I think, trying to balance things out and not overwhelm the food shouldn't overwhelm the whiskey, and the whiskey can't overwhelm the food. They've got to complement each other. They've got to run. It's like you have these parallel tracks that you can eventually merge, right? Like, it's 2 different putts, but they're both breaking to the hole.
Yeah,
if they get
sure.
to the hole at the same time, you're there. So if you've got a food that's naturally spicy or has a lot of pepper in it, go with a spicier bourbon. If you've got something more mellow, like go with that. Oftentimes, pair off your sauce work, right? Like, that should be your first thing that you're pairing off of. So go sauce and go by whatever has kind of the biggest flavor. And then don't forget about texture too. Mm. The easiest way to kind of pair is to think, for me, and everyone's different, is think about what flavors exist in a bourbon. So I tell people all the time, you want to get good at blind tasting or good at really tasting. And this is geeky as hell. Like, no one needs to spend time doing this to enjoy bourbon. But if you want to take it to the nth degree, sit down with some corn, some dried corn, sit down with cranberries, sit down with banana chips, sit down with almonds, sit down with hazelnuts, sit down with graham crackers, a vanilla bean, And as you're tasting, like, eat a little graham cracker, you'll be like, yes or no. Rye bread, same idea, right? Wow, that's OBSV. It should be a high rye mash bill from Four Roses. Let me try it with rye. Now let me try OESK, and does it have as much rye to it? So that's how you really want to geek out. But if you think about those traditional flavors that I just mentioned, what of those exist in the food that you're there?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what are those things like? So I'll give you an example. Sweet potatoes. It's an easy bourbon pairing because people are going to put butter. People are going to put marshmallows, which is sweet, caramel. Like, all those things work.
Probably
right?
some allspice or cinnamon or
Right.
something
So
along those
all
lines.
those things go into, like, think about what goes with that, and then try and think of the flavors and the bourbon that you have and meld them up together. I don't know if that answered your question, but that's
No, sure. Yeah. No, well, I mean, really my question was, I probably could have been more direct and, how do you do it? But I mean, exactly. And just what you said is what's in the dish that you're cooking. And again, it's, different than wine, which is, complement it. Don't try and move away from it.
I'm very much in the complimentary. And the other thing that you mentioned earlier that I think it's lost in this, if you're doing something heavy or light, pay attention to the viscosity of the whiskey.
Yeah.
Right? They have different mouthfeels. If it hits you up front, if it hits you in back, how long's the finish? Does it really coat your mouth? Like, people kind of lose that or don't pay attention to it. And I think it's an important part of how that pairing is going to go.
Well, or do people even realize, depending on where you are in your whiskey or spirit adventure, because you definitely, when you're eating, the texture of the food could change the flavor profile, even though you're still getting that out of it. But the texture of the food could be off-putting in a way that starts to trigger some things up here that are like, your sensory glands. It's like, that doesn't taste good. And it might not be that it didn't taste good. It might just be that the texture of it triggered something that kind of sent you in a wrong direction, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting to hear, like, when you start talking to tasters and distillers and master distillers, like, I always ask them, like, what's your favorite pairing? Like, Jackie's Viscount from Old Forester's, like, lobster bisque and bourbon. She loves it,
Oh, yeah.
And then there's some stuff I'm like, what's your least favorite pairing? And they'll be like, oh, this doesn't work. Like, and
Sure.
you can have things that don't work, and so stay away from those and go toward things that work. I mean, at the end of the day, I think one of the things that's interesting, everybody's palate's different. And the only bad whiskey is a whiskey that's made improperly and is actually bad, right? Like, just because you like makers and it's not cool to like makers doesn't mean it's bad whiskey. It's really good whiskey, right? And it's okay to drink it. Like, drink what you like and eat what you like. And if you think that goes with that, then if it does for you, great. I might look at you like you're high, but, that's, like, don't worry about that judgment. Like, go for things. And the other thing about it is, don't be afraid to experiment. Like, you've got a dish, like, pour like 3 whiskeys. I mean, they don't have to be full pours. Like, pour like 3 little pours and be like, okay, what's going to go well with the salmon? Like, and you might decide salmon and whiskey don't go together. You might decide, like, holy crap, that works really well because it's fatty and the viscosity in this whiskey, rye and salmon go together. And, like, so it's about,
I mean, a good unfiltered whiskey with some fatty salmon in there. I mean, you get a little mustard glaze. I mean, you're starting to kind of, it's like gelling together, man.
It's all there. And I think there's no right or wrong. So don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Right.
You mentioned two brands. We're not drinking any of them, but I'm sure we both had plenty of them, or the three of us have. And you mentioned Wild Turkey earlier and how it's overlooked. And you also mentioned Maker's Mark, which, again, I think it has kind of a stigma around it. I think I only have one bottle of Maker's Mark, and it's cask strength, just because there's no reason for me to drink just, regular label Maker's Mark. I want I want something a little bit meatier. But, like if you wind up in a dive bar somewhere and, you've got a black label and you got a white label maybe, but you're probably going to be able to find one of those two, being Maker's or Wild Turkey 101. And neither of those are a bad option. And you go down that road, man.
I mean, absolutely. And you do get into stuff like, I think the 19 and the 20 releases of their Stave project are really interesting whiskeys. Now they cost more. They're not super hard. I mean, it's all hard to find now. It's ridiculous. But they are, excuse me, two of the more interesting sort of one-off whiskeys I've had recently. And I enjoy them because I like what they're doing to try and do interesting stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But I I think everyone should sort of. I've always tried to kind of tier I've got this tier of whiskey that if I am in a dive bar or I am in Italy or I am wherever, I know I can consistently drink it. Then maybe here, and then you can get up to your unicorn stuff. But like, I'm not a guy that can afford to drink $100 whiskey every night. Kudos to those that can and then can find it. But you need to have some go-to whiskeys that you.
But
enjoy.
you don't have to drink $100 whiskey every night to have a great damn glass of whiskey.
Go when you see McKenna 10 sitting on a shelf, buy as much of it as you can.
Right.
I mean, I think Old Forester 1920 is great. I think the new Pinhook stuff is really good for the price they're charging.
Yeah.
And a $36 whiskey is a reasonable whiskey that I can drink in a cocktail if I want, or not in a cocktail if I want. As opposed to just saying, oh yeah, I'm going to drink, Little Book 2, 3, and 4 tonight, or I'm going to drink Boss Hog, or it's not that way with me. If it is for some folks, I'd love to hang out with you. Call me.
Yes, as would I. I mean, those are bottles that, to your point, I put them on the shelf, and I sip them when it's special occasion ish, kind of, sort of.
Usually when Adam Scott's leading the match, right?
Usually when Adam Scott's leading anything, yeah. At this point, like this year, it's like anytime he's playing. I mean, we all got to have a man crush.
Are we going to talk about whether he's anchoring that putter or not?
If you drink enough, it doesn't matter.
That swing looks so good. It really doesn't.
I'm telling you.
It doesn't matter. That's one of those swings that you just go, yeah, okay.
It's like, how do you not win everything?
I think he does for the most part, in his own way.
So, all right. So hold on. I got
life. He might not be winning a lot of golf tournaments. He's winning life.
He's winning life. Yeah.
He's winning life for sure. I got another cooking question, and I'll promise I'll try to get away from it.
Oh, you're good.
But it also is related to bourbon. So do you, or whiskey? And when I say bourbon, you mentioned tequila earlier, and listen, if we call this thing Birdies and vodka, you wouldn't be on the show. Okay, so we had to come up with something catchy.
I will drink a transfusion though.
Man, that's a horse of a different color, man. That's completely different. But in just thinking about spirits in general, and you mentioned tequila earlier. I'm a fan of tequila. I'm probably a bigger fan of mezcal than I am tequila. That doesn't have any direction of where I'm going. But do you cook a lot with spirits? In sauces or glaze or marinades or?
Yeah, we cook a fair amount with spirits. It's just something that I think adds a dimension to things. Particularly this time of year where we're braising a lot, where we're slow cooking and we're using a lot of wet heat cooking methods. We will tend to use wine, whiskey. I think in curing things like curing salmon with tequila is very interesting because you get that agave, like it transitions over. And so we cook a fair amount with whiskey. It's not like, I don't think we do it with intent. We do it with intent, but it's not like, hey, we want to make a whiskey dish.
You're not searching for the recipe. Yeah. It's just, hey, this works and we're going to do it.
I mean, it's more like the way our creative process works here with my team. In particular is sort of, we really look at what we have, like what's coming from farmers and fishermen, and that is our palette, and then we decide what we're going to paint.
Gotcha.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
We don't go into it going, I'm going to paint a bridge and I need these colors. One out of every 100 dishes is like that. Mm-hmm. The other 99 are, we have these colors and all this stuff. Okay, we're going to put this here. We're going to put this here. We want a texture element. We want this here, and that melds into a whole dish.
What I heard was, oh shit, here's what we got. What are we going to do with it?
Yeah, and it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot harder. I mean, if I want to challenge my cooks, like I say, you can't order anything special. Cook out of the cooler, and you've got you've got eggplant and chocolate and chili and some salmon and black olive. I'm like, what are you gonna do with that? Because that's harder to do than saying like, look, I can make anything taste good with truffles and cream and bacon, like and then I'll fry it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it tastes great. It's
Right.
just I don't have anything wrong with it. I'd love to eat it, but it's almost like, oh, that's a cheat code.
It's like
right?
It's like Iron Chef every night at Local 3.
Yeah, I mean, we have things where we change the menu frequently because we're working with local people. We're working and we're saying, hey, we got this fish, or hey, we got, like stone crabs are in right now. So this is the best year I've had in the last 10 for them.
Wow.
So, like, what are we gonna do? Like this, like it's interesting, right? The last 2 summers, peaches, best I've seen in my career. Tomatoes, pretty average. Last year was bad. This year was average.
Yeah.
Right? Good for mushrooms. It's damp. So we'll have more of that going on. So it all just really depends on sort of what's in season and what's where doing what. But I rarely go into it going, I'm going to cook a dish with X.
Yeah.
It's more like,
gotcha.
hey, wild salmon are coming in. Okay, we can get wild salmon for 3 weeks. We're going to feature it every night because we really don't serve any other salmon than wild salmon. So let's figure out what to do with it and how we can do it in interesting ways.
Cool.
Yeah, I love the creativity, man. Yeah, it's awesome that you that you've got a canvas, if you will, that you can take off on those adventures. Hold it. Let's get into the hometown guys.
So, Jim and Charlie and Kelly and Josh and the whole team at American Spirit are really good friends. I couldn't be prouder to have them as part of our hospitality scene in Atlanta. And we did a Giving Kitchen blend with them really early on in their sort of infancy, and we've just been really close friends. And they called us one day and said, hey, we want to do something with you and the guys from Brick Store because we've got this kind of cool beer thing, but it's a whiskey thing and we want the worlds to crash. And we said, yeah, let's have a creative collision. And we had done a whistle pig barrel with the guys from Brick Store that turned out amazing, and called it the Rebel Alliance just because we like to fancy ourselves as rebels against the bigger sort of restaurant conglomerates of the world. And they said, hey, we've made basically, I mean, when Jim came to me, he's like, hey, I've got a scotch that I want you to try. And I'm like, listen, I'll drink scotch, but like, it's not my thing, right? I have a really sensitive palate. I don't drink coffee whatsoever. Like, it wrecks my palate. Like, I'm like, wow. If I start drinking like Lefroy, I mean, it's just like sucking on a charcoal briquette to me. And I understand how some people like that. It's not saying that it doesn't taste great to other people.
Yeah, sure.
It's an incredible whiskey. And he was like, look, we've made this as a bourbon drinker's scotch. And so I was like, that's kind of weird. How like, he's like, it's unpeated. I'm like, okay, you got me a little there. I'm now interested because I'm not doing the charcoal thing over the top. He's like, and we made it with Maris Otter, which I know enough about home brewing as not being a beer guy, is kind of it's the holy grail of malts. It was engineered in the 60s by a guy Bell in England, and it's kind of the home brewer's malt. I'm like, you got enough Maris Otter to make whiskey? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, cool, that's interesting. Let's do it. And so we went and we tasted we must have tasted 20 barrels that day. We were all wrecked by the time.
That was a good day.
Yeah, we everybody kind of had to leave the cars that day. We were like, okay, your parking lot's full and none of us you're gonna have to deal with that. We'll be back in the morning. And we really just found this one that we love that it's got a lovely malty flavor. And on the whiskey geek side and the bourbon geek side, I think it's crazy how much malt is ignored. When you talk to bourbon people, most of them will say, well, it's just in there to aid fermentation.
Yeah.
I mean, we're basically making beer and then distilling it. It's bringing flavor. There's a whole category of whiskey that's based on it. So don't tell me it's just there to aid fermentation. Yes, it helps fermentation. There's no question. It helps the yeast eat the sugar and turn it. But it's going to have some flavor to it, right? And so I just thought this was cool because it is a Scotch made with a beer malt, but no peat. And when I drink it, he was very right. It is a bourbon drinker's Scotch.
Yeah. I would say too, I would expand on that a little bit and say, if you're like, I don't really like whiskey. And for the folks that haven't tried the Maris Otter whiskey from ASW, this is when he says it's Scotch, he's referencing in the way that it's made and in the grain content that makes up the juice. I wouldn't say that this tastes like.
No, it doesn't taste like Scotch.
Right. It's just in the process and then in the grain. And I would also say, if you're like, I'm not a big whiskey guy, just never could get into it, and it's probably because you were drinking, the black label and the brown label and the white label, but this is if you're into some of those malted beers, kind of higher proof beer, this is a beer drinker's introduction to whiskey 100%.
I also think this is rare. This is a single varietal. This is just Maris Otter. Usually you get lots of different malts, this is just Maris Otter. So it's a very unique, it's a unique whiskey, and it's one that anytime you can collaborate, any time that we get to work with friends like the guys at Brick Store and Leon's, it's magic. I mean, they're incredibly creative people. They have, that really is a legit top 10 in the world beer bar. I mean, people travel from all over the world to see. Oh,
Brick Store Pub?
See Mike and the boys. And so when we get to collaborate with that and learn from them and be part of that, it's really magical for us to be able to do that.
Yeah, talk about a couple hell of a days. I mean, you working a trip to Brick Store, working a trip to Local 3. You maybe get around in at. I'm trying to think of what would be around that you could actually play. If you know anybody, they can get you on at East Lake. I mean,
East Lake would be great. If you can get on Druid, that would be great. East Lake's the most logical kind of place for everybody. Which is it's always fun. I understand it has the big name, but it is a great track. Everything's out in front of you.
Oh my God, it is.
It's a wonderful golf course. It's a great caddy program. You won't find a better staff in the country anywhere. I mean, Chad, Drew, and Dave, and Chef Nick. I mean, they're literally top notch, and so they're great friends, and I always love going out and playing out there.
Oh, speaking of, so we had Chad on the show a while back before the tournament. So are you involved in the? I forget the name of the barbecue team. Are you involved in that?
Q School. Yeah.
I am I don't know what you would call me. I am an interested onlooker, the head taster. But no, I don't think Chad and Stuart want anything to do with me. They're both dear friends. We are going to do an event together at Stage Valley later on this spring for the Junior Invitational. We're going to take on some other barbecue guys. I think Davis and Zach Johnson are going down.
That's sweet.
So we're coming for those guys. I don't know if they even know that yet, but we're coming. But no, I don't think I know enough to sate their incredible, desire. Stuart ever shown you? Did he ever tell you the story about his jacket?
No. But you've already opened it up, so go ahead.
Stuart's a pretty chill guy, right? I mean, we're both Georgia Tech guys. Stuart's very even keel. I am not, but that's neither here nor there. So Stuart comes up to me one day and he's in the restaurant. And he's like, "Got a blazer on." I'm like, "I got a blazer on, dude. Like, I don't need a blazer jacket to dine." He's like, "I gotta show you something."
Oh boy. Opens
the blazer. And I'm like, "What the hell is the lining of your blazer?" He's like, "Those are our chicken thighs." Well, I guess when he went to Wyndham or somewhere, I think it was Wyndham. like literally, you know how the pros get gifts, like
Yeah, sure.
and at Wyndham they had a guy making blazers for them, and they could do anything on the inside as the lining. So what Stewart picked, he literally takes a picture of off his phone of his chicken thighs on the smoker and gets it on the inside as the lining of his.
Hilarious.
That probably wants to throw it out, but it's like I was like, that's hardcore, dude. That's really freaking hardcore. I mean, those guys like. First of all, did you talk with Chad about pickles?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All
Christmas pickles. Yeah.
Yeah. Christmas, like pickles are important, but I'm telling you, Chad's. I mean, those chicken thighs are as good as it gets, man. I mean, they are so delicious and so good. Those guys do a great job. So yeah, I'm an interested taster. Occasionally ask for advice about strange things, not things you would normally barbecue, right? If they got stuck with doing fish or something, hopefully I'd get a call. But when it comes to chicken thighs and things like that,
they're like just stand back.
They're way ahead of me. Even I'll admit that. Like it's just delicious.
The chicken thigh blazer.
Well, this is the thing. He's talking to Chris Lilly, and I'm like, so I'm talking to Lilly one day, and I'm like, you played in the pro. He's played Chris Lilly's played in the Pebble Beach Pro in like 10 straight years. I'm like, how do I get in this thing? He's like, don't worry about it. There's only room for so many chefs.
Only room for so many chefs.
Like my dream. It's all I want is to go out there and play. So
you got to put it on a repeat. That's what I've learned. It's either you get defriended or you get an invitation.
Man, when you cook barbecue that good and he can cook it that good, you're gonna get a lot of invitations to a lot of places.
Understood. So this I like the pairings that you have here, especially getting into this ASW. I mean, this takes me right into wintertime. I mean, this is kind of campfire. I am getting kind of that malty biscuity. It's almost like if I said sweet biscuits, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I get like a cheddar biscuit kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like, if you want to be you want to go lowbrow on it, swing by the old Red Lobster and grab some of those cheddar biscuits and eat them with that. It'll go well. You know what does really well with this, speaking of biscuits, is like one of my favorite pairings with any whiskey, but it works with this and it works with the Elijah really well. Like good country ham with that saltiness and then that sweet and the smoke. Like you get like an Edwards or a Newsom, like a real good country ham. That's about perfection.
So when you're so you mentioned you'd spent some time up in Tennessee. I don't know which part. I grew up in East Tennessee originally.
All right, like so we lived in Swanee for a while. My parents went to university.
Yeah.
And then I went to school in Chattanooga.
Okay,
so I've got lots of friends all the way from Knoxville and Maryville.
Yeah, I'm hillbilly. I mean, it's exit 23. It's called Bull's Gap. So
all right, that's
off 81. And so you brought up country ham, and no one's ever brought up country ham before, but I got to ask. So when you're slicing your country ham, do you slice it thick or you slice it thin?
Thin.
There's no other way. I mean, if anybody brings out a thick piece of country ham, send that shit back. It ain't country ham.
Like it needs to, like part of the beauty of country ham is like when you put it on your tongue and you get that salt, you should almost not have to chew it. It's like diaphanous. It just goes and it just appears in your mouth, and you're like, and then you have that oh shit moment. You're like, man, that's everything.
And you get that little fat ring around it. It kind of gets a little crunchy on the outside.
Got it, man. You got it. So I'm a big fan.
I'd even take a little red eye gravy on my biscuit.
Red eye, nothing wrong with a little red eye gravy. I mean, country ham is it is sort of the perfect pairing for me with bourbon.
It's ASW.
You get salty. Yeah, the ASW, like as it starts to open, it gets a little air on it. You really get that kind of, I mean, the malty does come through almost that texturally. If you remember eating a malted milk ball, like, like hits your palate, like it's a really unique whiskey. It's great for this time of year. It also, believe it or not, this whiskey makes a killer Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
It just makes a killer Manhattan.
I can see that.
It really works well. And what we do a little holiday Manhattan here, we just take a little dropper and have a little bit of peppermint schnapps, and like literally,
Ooh,
like almost like you would
nice.
vermouth in a martini. Like, don't
Yeah.
get hippie with it. You're not trying to drink it freaking candy cane.
Yeah.
Okay. But just that little bit of peppermint, because it's gonna, like, oftentimes with rye, you'll get those minty
Sure.
like notes, and it'll bring that out a little bit. So that's a
Yeah.
little fun cocktail you can do at home.
Interesting.
A really good Manhattan, and just like a drop, like you would vermouth of some sort of peppermint schnapps, or you
Yeah.
know, I'm
Do
sure
you?
you've got rumplements hanging around for golf bets and stuff like that, right?
It probably happens. Yeah. Do you guys do a lot of so with your cocktail program at the bar? I can be honest. I've been there several times. I've never had a cocktail because there's so damn many
You're
good.
drinking straight whiskey. I get it.
I mean, I'm like, well, I don't know why I would mix that with anything. I'd let, and then it's like, well, the next time I'll have it with a cocktail, but the next time I'm like, no, I'll take that one and I'll just have it neat, you know.
I totally get it.
But do you guys do a lot of like, you know, fresh purees and such for?
Yeah, we're doing everything here.
Yeah.
We're doing most everything here. You know, one of our classics that we really can't take off is a drink called a Nashville Sour. And Charlie and Andy Nelson for Greenbrier, they came down here looking to distribute their whiskey, and they got sent one place, and somebody called me and said, "Hey, these two boys are from Tennessee. You'll love them. They got a great story. I'm going to send them for lunch at your place. They're talking to some distributors." I said, "All right," you know, and I met them, and we hit it off instantly. And I was like, "Listen, you guys are going to get lost over there. It's not going to be good. Give me 10 minutes." And I made a phone call. Somebody came down. We got them hooked up. So kind of, it was great. We've been close because they've done well in the States since they've been
Yeah,
here.
sure.
They're great guys. And so we were talking one day, and one of our bartenders, we call it a Nashville Sour. And so it's Bell Mead, and there's a fig puree in there, and we do a red wine float on the top. It's just a little,
Ooh, nice.
a little egg white. It's a killer drink. It's just
Wow. That sounds
so
amazing.
yeah, we're doing everything. We're doing everything here. There's, you know, we're trying to do as many tinctures and fusions, everything like that. I've kind of forbidden. It's fine to use liquors and things like that, but there's no flavored booze in here.
Right.
Like, if you want to flavor your booze,
Go somewhere else.
Like, you want honey in your bourbon, get some damn honey and put it in your bourbon. We're not going to buy, like, you know, I mean, from vodka, anything. You know, we're going to do it all ourselves and make everything here.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you too long. You get to chat
as much time as you want. I got at least another half hour. It'll be the longest podcast ever. You guys kick me off one hour.
Well, I mean, if you're entertaining enough, it'll just breeze right through it. So you brought up, and I want to get back to some golf, but I can't help it. I mean, you know, it's not often that you wind up with someone that is in your position that has their take on spirits and also likes to play golf. So I kind of, it's like I'm like an old sweater, man. I'm like, which way do I go? But so you mentioned flavored, and I agree with the flavored stuff. You know, sometimes somebody will sneak in I won't get into any names, but what's your take on the finishes that are coming? So not flavored, but finishes.
Yeah, I'm fine with finishing because I think that's part of the process. I mean, if you're putting something in oak to start and it has to be New American, if you want to pull it at some point and put it in a different oak, I mean, I think the new Woodford, the Baccarat, I mean, care less. I can't say that. Chris Morris will send me hate mail. I love the Baccarat. But what really matters is the fact they aged it for like 8 years in Armagnac. Right. And that gave it a really interesting. I mean, I can tell you this. I get my years mixed up because I'm old and I drink too much. And I can't, like,
I'll drink to that.
I remember golf holes like better than, but like Samurai Scientist, which was Dave's last boss hog. Right. So yes, it's insanely expensive. But the fact, like, you know, put that whiskey in a Mushu plum barrels for 2 years. That was the most, it was not only what, to my mind, the best, but the most interesting whiskey that came out in 2019.
Really?
I thought it was, come by. I mean, it's the one whiskey I tell people, you can chase a name or you can drink a whiskey that you've never had anything like it before, and it'll blow your fucking mind.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of people will be like, I tend toward bourbon, not rye, and this is 100% rye, but it's just with the plum wine barrels and everything they did with it, it's just very unique. So I like it. I mean, it was funny. I did we did a barrel dinner where we bought some barrels with Chris Morris last year, and I asked him flat out, I'm like, what's your favorite whiskey you ever made? And he was like, one of my first sort of like finishing projects he did in Sonoma-Cutrer Chardonnay barrels. And you can't find it anymore. And he's like, if I could find that whiskey,
that doesn't even make sense to me. I mean, I guess I could think about it.
You get the buttery to go along with the caramel and but he raved about I've never had it. I immediately like went online, like looking for this stuff.
And you can't find it.
No, I mean, he goes, if anybody has it, I'll buy it from you and pay you ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Like, so I think it's cool. I've always liked things that I've always enjoyed people that are willing to push. You can push too far, right? I think you can do crazy stuff. But like, I loved when Buffalo BT did the Oak Project, and I love when they did the experimental stuff. You know, I think it's like, did I always love it? No, there are some whiskeys I was like, oh man, that's terrible. Like, but there were some that I was like, man, that's really, really cool. Single oak was a super cool idea. And that was such an interesting idea that you're going to take single trees and you're going to age the same whiskey. Like, it's such a cool idea. So, I think it's cool. I think people, again, I think you can carry it too far. Find balance in it.
I think they do. I think there's some tweaking that can be done on the marketing of it. So we had I don't know if you know Sagamore Spirit or not, but we recently had them on, and they, I don't want to say but recently released their Manhattan finish. So, it went through vermouth and a few other barrels, and it's just the way that it comes off and how it's. And I'm not talking about Sagamore. It's great. I mean, I would say, like, shit, this is, I've got my friend's bottle shop, some coming up. But it's the way that it's marketed, and it's not Sagamore. It's in general. It's like, how do you start to discern, I'm getting way off track on it for us, but how do you start to discern the way from it's a flavored versus a finished, and how do you start to educate the folks that's like, well, I don't know, is it finished or is it flavored? And what
thing too? I think you drink enough bourbon that you can tell differences, and the nuance is not lost on you. Whereas someone new to bourbon gets into that and they think that's what bourbon tastes like, and you're like, you might be a little off the reservation over here,
right?
I mean, I found more cool, like, we enjoy the fact that when we buy barrels, we get the actual barrel and we use them. So we send them, we send them to beer making friends. Every year at the end of the summer, we make 55 gallons of something and put it in some barrel of hot sauce. So different peppers, and we'll put it, in a whiskey barrel and a tequila barrel and let it age.
So hold on. So Chad hadn't asked for one of these barrels yet?
Chad hadn't asked, but I'll get him one if he wants.
I mean, what about a bourbon? What about a bourbon pickle?
The beer guys are lined up. They love the barrels. If they can get a barrel, they that's the end all and be all for them. So they definitely love that stuff.
We're back to ASW real quick. So when I was in there, so we had Richland Rum on, I don't know, a few months ago, and
they're doing a super good job. That's a super cool project.
Yeah, the Richland Rum. Well, ASW has got some of their barrels. I haven't tasted it yet. You probably have.
I have not. I've seen the barrels, but I haven't. The last time I was over there, I kind of looked at them and made a mental note to try it, but I have not tasted it yet.
I made a mental note and wrote down the date that they said we think this is when it's going to be ready, and I'm like, we need to get you back on the show and talk about this release.
I think it'll be really popular.
How do we do that from Local 3?
We can do it. Let's do it. We do it all from here. We'll get the private room and we'll rock it out from here.
Perfect.
Very cool.
I'm in.
All right. I've already made another note.
We got good times and some golf coming up. So
we do. Right. Definitely going to have to get some strokes.
For me, dude. Terrible. I'm terrible.
Hold on. So let's. Are we good to go into golf now? You good?
Oh, yeah.
Good for some golf talk.
Absolutely, always.
So you've rattled off a few. Have you played Otokoa Farms?
I have not.
All right. So we got to get up there and see our buddy Ed. It's a great place.
That's a good track. Yeah. Beautiful area.
Yeah. What else? Because you said you had a place up in the mountains. You don't have to. We don't want the address yet.
Yeah,
but,
no, that is, I don't play up there. I'm not allowed to take my clubs up there.
Okay. That's a getaway.
I've made to my wife.
Yeah.
Is no golf clubs up there because I do spend a lot of time, playing, which is great. I'm lucky that we don't have kids, so I get out a fair amount. I try and practice at least once a week and play twice a week. Now, some weeks, it changes and you can't.
Yeah, sure.
And work commitments and all, but I'm fortunate that I get to play golf and get out there and hack it around. So we can go to Pine Tree, we can play out there, wherever you guys want to play.
Is that so? And Wes said he was either at Pine Tree or he is at Pine Tree. I think he was a member, but he's not anymore. But
because they moved out and now
yeah.
But I'm at Pine Tree.
Okay.
So good track. Greens will beat you up a little bit.
Here's the thing. I mean, literally. So, I mean, maybe this shows what kind of amateur golfer I am, or maybe it shows how exclusive Pine Tree is. I had never heard of Pine Tree until Wes mentioned it. I mean, is that common?
Yeah, I think it's a hardcore players club, and there's nothing like I'm Brad, the GM. Those guys are going to kill me. They do a great job with everything, but it's really a golfer's golf club. I mean, you want to get a game, there's a game there every day of the week. Like you get a game. And it's Kennesaw State team plays out there. Mm-hmm. Chad Phillips has his academy out there. So you see a lot of young, and by young, I mean 14 to 15-year-old kids.
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely murder it. A lot of people practicing out. I mean, you go to the range out there at any given time, the putting green, they're going to be like 10, 15 people hitting balls.
Well, you're really making me want to make a trip up there, bud.
Listen. You get to play with me, and you'll beat the brakes off of me. So,
well, I don't know about that.
I just try and get it around a little bit, and but it's fun. The greens are really great. It's a great group of people, and it's a really fun place.
Yeah. So what did we touch on, man? Let's. I've rattled off enough, and I've been jabbing you with things. What do you want to hit on? You want to talk about Giving Tree? You want to talk about?
I mean, the Giving Kitchen is a charity we help found that helps hospitality workers in need. So anyone that serves food or drink for a living in the state of Georgia, we help. So if you are into golf and into bourbon, like we could help the people in the grill at your club, and we could help the people at your local bar or your servers at your local restaurant. And we just help restaurant workers in crisis. As a lot of people know, most restaurant workers and hospitality workers trade time for money. And if they don't work, they don't earn. So if you break your ankle and can't work for 6 weeks and you're a single mom, you're in danger of becoming homeless. And that's where we can step in and make sure your rent is paid and your electricity is on and you've got food on the table. And that's really our passion project. We're fortunate enough to, for anybody that's looking for golf-related stuff as well, or whiskey-related stuff as well. We have our big Team Heidi event at the end of January. It'll be virtual this year. We auction off an entire run of Pappy, so you'll get everything from this year, including we also have some killer golf lots on courses you really wouldn't be able to play otherwise unless you're, really well connected.
That's cool.
And gives you a chance, to go do cool stuff. Go down to the Floridian and play around with Claude Harmon. And no, I mean, seriously, it's stuff we've auctioned off before, and sets of clubs and just really cool stuff. So that's our charity, and that's our passion project. And right now in our business, we need it more than ever, right?
Yeah.
Because COVID has really taken a toll on a lot of restaurants around Georgia, and frankly, it's a lot of our friends are going to struggle to make it out of this. And so it's more important for everybody to know now than ever. If you have a local restaurant that you like, you need to go there. You need to support the staff and support the owners, because these are the people that have supported you. They've supported your athletic booster club. They've supported the volleyball team. They've supported your church. They've done all that. This is the time where we're asking you guys to come back and show that to us, because we need it right now.
Very cool.
It's very important.
So Chris is being humble, I guess. So if you go to local 3, I think 3 is spelled out like THREE. So local, it's all
Local.
letters. Yeah, all letters, no numbers. And they're regularly posting on their social media sites, and it's all local 3, all letters, no numbers. And they've got pickup meals for you. You come in, you get your meals to go, and you take them back with you. So that's definitely something that, and a great way to support. I'm sure you can come in when time permits. You can be able to come in and eat inside, socially distancing and respectfully.
Yeah, we're socially distanced right now. We have heaters on the patio. If you come indoors, we took the kind of rare move in that we installed a biodefense system. So we have a system called Synexus that you can read about on our website that actually basically takes all the air coming into the space and has dried hydrogen peroxide. So when it hits the molecular water in the air, it kills any bacteria. So it's mainly used. I've seen a lot of pro sports locker rooms, and we happen to have a friend who's in that business who helped us get that running. And so we've tried to do everything as safe as we can be, and we're making it work every day. We're reinventing ourselves and pushing forward. We're fortunate. I think restaurants that had a tie to their community, like I talked about, are going to be the ones that really survive, right? Because the community values them and they know they're an asset to that community. And we happen to have those, and we're very fortunate.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to put together an event. I was on the phone today trying to get Justin Thomas down here and do a little event with Woodford. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. That would be pretty cool.
That would be cool.
Do some whiskey and.
Well, if you need to release it somewhere, we can definitely record. You can release it on whatever site you want. You don't have to release it on Birdies and Bourbon. You can release it wherever. But if you need to, like a preamble
guy, and I think that would be cool to get some stuff going. And there are a lot of guys on tour drinking whiskey, but not nearly as much as us not nearly as much as us 10 handicappers drinking whiskey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, who's coming on is Casa Azul.
Casa Azul, yeah. So there's a lot of good tequila. We do a lot of stuff with Herradura. They're worldwide brand ambassadors of Friends, so we go down once a year at least and buy barrels and play a little golf at Country Club of Guadalajara, which is Carlos Moreno Ochoa's.
We need to get in on a barrel pick with you at some point.
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love to have you guys. Yeah, we've got. I'm. In fact, that's funny you say that because I was literally on my to-do list. It popped up on my calendar today. It was like set 2021 barrel picks up. We're kind of we try and just quite frankly get them down to the end of the year where we're kind of starting new, and we want enough to carry over into the new year.
Yeah, sure.
Really like to buy in Q1 because we get them in Q2, and 3 and 4 are our biggest bourbon quarters, right? I mean, run everything out in Q1, buy in Q2, get it Q3. Because while we're selling whiskey all year round, the summer is just a little less.
We'd love to get in on that with you. If it's, if you think, if we think the brand's a fit for each other so far.
Yeah, let's do it. I'd love to do it. I'll send you guys a list of stuff we're talking about. It's
awesome.
We're always trying to set some cool stuff up and just get some really neat stuff up. And who knows, maybe when we can travel again, we'll go to Louisville and play Valhalla. That's always a fun trip.
Why wouldn't we?
That's a good track. That's all you want. It's a good track. So, that's part of it. I'm always looking like, where can I go drink whiskey and play golf and kind of like blend those two things together? Because if I'm going to be here, where can I be here?
I mean, how pissed off would you be if you had to go to work and you didn't have a good time?
Yeah. Listen, that's why I chose what I do. No 2 days are the same, and then it's a tough life. I tell people jokingly I'm living the dream, but I really am. I mean, there's so much cool stuff, and we're very fortunate to be where we are and be able to do what we love to do. And I've been able to find a way to work and do what I love, and get to play a lot of golf, which is another thing I love, and drink whiskey. So things in my world are pretty good.
Chris
That's awesome.
Hall from Local 3. It's been great talking to you. Dan, I know you got a question to ask him. Go ahead.
Chris, as you did with Wes, so you got a lot of friends in the industry. Obviously, you talked a lot about your places. You know, off the beaten path, diamonds in the rough around you. Where would you send people to go dine?
Wow. Are we just looking for whiskey? Or are we looking for general experience?
Leave it up to you. What do you think, Cal?
Well, I think no. I mean, like if somebody's coming into town and they're not going to one of your places, and we've already mentioned the brick store, so you can't send us there. But it's like, hey, I'm coming into town, and I'm gonna play. Could be playing Eastlake. I could be playing Echelon. I could be playing Capital City. But I'm staying around town, and I want a good drink. But I want a good meal after a round.
And there's so much good stuff going on in Atlanta right now. So I think if you're drinking bourbon, Ryan Pernice at Table and Main in Roswell has a really, really good selection. And they do a really nice job. I think if you want to go kind of on the more mellow end, you know, I've been known to crush a few whiskeys at Mac McGee's. And get down there and run through. They've got a pretty cool cellar of really interesting stuff down there that I really like. I am also I am a fan of casualness. So I am the guy that likes. I'm okay with music. I'm also okay with you keeping your shirt tucked in.
Hold on. If you say the Claremont Lounge, we're going to go for another hour.
I wasn't going to say Claremont. I was going to say Northside Tavern.
Oh,
But I'm a big fan of bars with character, and I think we're sort of steadily
Mudcat.
So I think bars with character are places I like to hang out at. Right. I'm definitely the guy that likes the you know, as I said earlier, I take what I do really seriously, but I don't take myself too seriously. So that tends to be the places I gravitate to, and the golf clubs I gravitate to.
yeah.
Right. I want to play serious golf, but I want to have a good time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I want a great golf course, but if we're worried about where the fork goes at lunch, it's probably not the place for me.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Like we're all there to have fun and do it. So I mean, the neat thing about Atlanta right now is there's just been a kind of democratization of good food, and you can find it in so many places. So whether, you know, like if you're out in Tucker and playing out there, right? Like go eat Korean barbecue out there, because you're going to get great Korean
Absolutely.
barbecue, right? Like so I think you know, don't be afraid to take a chance, but look around where you are and know that there's probably a really good local restaurant. Mm-hmm. I think this is almost tropey, and I don't want it to come off the wrong way, but like Cheesecake Factory is going to get theirs. Mm-hmm. Like go support somebody that's local and that needs you and wants you, mm-hmm. right? Because those people really, really do. They employ a lot of people, and they really support the kind of local economy that you're in, from your church and your school to your local golf course. So
perfect.
Oh, Chris, I got to mention this. So you mentioned it's not quite in Tucker, but it is on Buford Highway. Maybe on Chambly. Anyway, but it's called Ko Song Dong Tofu House, and they have the best. You already know it,
dude. I am like. If we could spend another 2 hours on Buford Highway. People ask me all the time, where do you eat? Like, look, most chefs, like, we don't eat it. Like, we don't go out for like fancy meals. We go eat ethnic food. So this the best part about being a chef in Atlanta is this is an amazing food town with amazing food people, and everybody respects for the most part and likes each other, and it's incredibly collegial and supportive. Mm-hmm. The problem with that is you can't go out and have a quick burger because somebody's sending you 4 plates of food to try because they're really interested in what you think. Now, if that's a first world problem, let's not lie about that, right? This is first world problem. But honestly, like there's something just really cool about walking into, you know, Taqueria El Rey or you know, Northern China Eatery or somewhere like that, and being completely anonymous and having that experience. That to me is really, really cool, and really fun. And I always do enjoy if people ask me, like I had the chance last year to Jimmy Roberts was at East Lake and I was there and he's like, where should I go eat? And I just told him, I'm like, go to these ethnic places. And he was like, he texted me, he's like, dude, that was awesome. I never would have done that. But that was so cool. Thank you. And so I just, where we eat ethnic food more than, you know, from Fodaloy to, you know, going to get dim sum at Oriental Pearl to Tasty China to Taqueria Oaxaqueña.
Are you a fan of those chicken feet, by the way, at dim sum?
All right. So my good buddies, no. So
they're gelatinous to me. I mean, it's not the taste, it's the texture. We talked about this again.
I'm a lazy bastard. It takes like 28 years to eat a chicken foot. It's like the freaking juice is not worth the squeeze. Right?
Exactly.
Especially when there's some lady walking by with like bacon wrapped shrimp. And I'm like,
you got dumplings with
that, or I could eat 5 of those. Yeah, I'll take 5 of those, please. Like, so from a flavor profile, I get you. I will say this. So in general, if you want to make chicken stock or like chicken soup, chicken feet are the jam. You will never find a better stock because of the amount of collagen in them that gives it the flavor and makes it amazing.
And then feed them to your dog after the fact.
Right. If I'm going to dim sum, man, I'm skipping the chicken feet and eating like 6 more tofu cakes.
Yeah, well, my partner, she's South Korean, so you know I have to eat some weird things sometimes. And
you also damn good food, man. Like,
oh, I'm telling you,
me and Korean barbecue get along really, really well.
I'm like, you know, as a hillbilly from East Tennessee, I was always like, you know, I'm talking like not like the Mexican that we think Mexican food is. I'm talking like go to Oaxaca and eat like Mexican street fare with the ladies like wheeling the coffee in a big jug with a little gas lantern under it, and the tamales that they just made last night, you know, and you're getting the mezcal straight up. But I'm like this. I've got to get to South Korea.
Yeah, the best grasshoppers and the best escamole, which is ant eggs that I've ever had, were at Guadalajara Country Club. Like,
oh yeah,
that lunch to die for. Absolutely insane. Like,
nice, nice.
And a golf course where literally not a single blade of grass is out of place.
Wow. Wow.
So, good Lord.
Definitely one for the bucket list there.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
You've made us both so jealous.
It's true.
Not envious.
We'll go out and we'll play around the golf and then we'll drink a little whiskey and go out and get some food. It'll be great.
Perfect.
Kind of a perfect day, right? Not much more can happen other than that.
Well, hey, Chris Hall, before we go, have we told everybody where they can find you? Do you want to say it again?
So
you can say it at a later date.
You can find me at any of our restaurants. So Muss & Turner's, which is at Cumberland Parkway in Smyrna. MTH Pizza, which is right around the corner. If you haven't tried that, it's the best pizza in town. And I normally don't talk about my food like that, but it really is as good a pizza as you'll find in Atlanta.
Awesome.
And then if you want to come drink whiskey with me, I'm normally at Local 3, 5 to 6 nights a week, which is right off of 75, right by the OK Cafe across from the public library. So come down to Buckhead and drink some whiskey.
Is there some place else that you didn't want to mention that you wanted to mention?
No, I think I got them all.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Chris.
guys. Really
cheers.
Thanks so much,
great
buddy.
Holiday season, and stay healthy.
All right. You too.
Yeah, you
Thank
too, bud. Cheers.
Cheers.